l'immane tragedia della Seconda Guerra Mondiale.
The immense tragedy of the Second World War ended 80 years ago on May 8th, after leaving 60 million victims dead. In today's dramatic scenario of a Third World War being fought piecemeal, as Pope Francis repeatedly stated, I too appeal to the great ones of the world,
Mi rivolgo anch'io
repeating the ever-relevant plea, never again war.
mai più la guerra. Grazie a tutti voi. Buona domenica a tutti.
I'm happy to report that we made substantial progress between the United States and China in the very important trade talks.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Sunday U.S. officials reached a deal with China to cut the trade deficit. He offered optimism and promised more details to come after 2 days of negotiations concluded in Geneva.
We will be giving details tomorrow, but I can tell you that the talks were productive.
Neither Bessent nor U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer took questions from reporters. The meeting was the first face-to-face interaction between senior U.S. and Chinese economic officials since U.S. President Donald Trump took office.
We're talking about a tariff of 10% on China based on the fact that they're sending fentanyl to Mexico and Canada.
Trump launched a global tariff blitz that started with declaring a national emergency over the U.S. fentanyl crisis and imposing a new 20% tariff on Chinese goods in February. The president then followed with a 34% reciprocal duty on Chinese imports in April, and subsequent rounds pushed the rates into triple digits, bringing nearly $600 billion in two-way trade to a standstill. China had insisted that tariffs be lowered in any talks.
China says in order to have substantive negotiations, you have to bring down your 145% tariffs. Are you open to pulling back your tariffs in order to get China to the negotiating table?
No.
Trump said on Friday that an 80% tariff on Chinese goods, quote, seems right, suggesting for the first time a specific reduction target. Ambassador Greer said the talks had moved the two sides forward.
Just remember why we're here in the first place. Is the United States has a massive $1.2 trillion trade deficit. So the president declared a national emergency and imposed tariffs. So we're confident that the deal we struck with our Chinese partners will help us to work toward resolving that national emergency.
A White House press release that simply repeated Bessent's and Greer's brief comments with no details ran the headline, U.S. announces China trade deal in Geneva.
طبعا احنا لما بدأنا في منحة التصوير الإنساني لما خصصناها لغزة.
When we started the Photo Humanity Grant and dedicated it to Gaza, we faced difficulties. The difficulty of the internet, the difficulty of communicating with photographers inside, and also the difficulty of reaching most of the photographers who extend geographically from the north of Gaza to its south. I remember one of the situations that I will never forget. During the strikes, the north of Gaza was isolated from its center. So one of the photojournalists suggested going with his bike to the north of Gaza to tell the photographers there to participate with us in the grant. Thank God, we were able to cover a large number of photographers inside Gaza, and they participated with us.
Contenders for South Korea's presidency kicked off their campaigns Monday. It is a race to determine the successor to former leader Yoon Suk-yeol, who was ousted after briefly declaring martial law and plunging the country into political crisis. Top of the agenda for any candidate is uniting a fractured country in the wake of Yoon's removal from office and trying to grow the economy under threat of Donald Trump's trade policies. The frontrunner is Lee Jae-myung of the Liberal Democratic Party. Lee lost to Yoon in the last election, but is now gaining strong support.
Inequality, polarization, and insurrection have driven our society into extreme division and conflict, to the point where a presidential candidate should wear a bulletproof vest at election campaigns.
Lee was wearing such a vest on Monday over threats to his safety. He also survived a knife attack last year and has ridden a wave of popular appeal after that incident, as well as standing up to martial law and contesting charges that threatened to disqualify him. Those trials on charges of bribery and others linked to a property scandal have been postponed until after the polls. His party's policy pledges include mending fractured ties with North Korea and forging stronger ties with Europe. Lee's rival is Kim Moon-soo of the right-wing People Power Party. He began his campaign at a Seoul market, eating Korean sausage soup with merchants there and promising to revive small businesses.
Standing here at a public wholesale market, I truly feel I need to become the president of the markets, a president for people's livelihoods, a president for the economy. I think I should become a president who brings prosperity to South Korea.
Yoon backed Kim on Sunday to fight what he called the giant opposition party, but that's drawn criticism from PPP members who want Yoon kicked out of their party. If elected, Kim has proposed an immediate summit meeting with Trump to negotiate tariffs. Kim has also said he'd explore the possibility of South Korea developing nuclear arms by securing the right to reprocess nuclear fuel, a big step toward building atomic weapons.
There was a lot of diplomatic work today, both ours with partners and communication between partners in our support. Starting from tomorrow, we expect a ceasefire. The proposal for this is on the table. A complete and unconditional ceasefire, long enough to provide the necessary foundation for diplomacy, could bring peace much closer. I will be in Turkey this Thursday, May 15th. And I expect Putin in Turkey. Personally, I hope this time Putin will not look for reasons why he can't do something. We are ready to talk to end the war. Thursday, Turkey. President Trump supported it. All leaders supported it.
Residents of Pakistani-administered Kashmir celebrated on Sunday as a fragile ceasefire between India and Pakistan appeared to hold, with US President Donald Trump offering to help resolve the arch-rivals' long-running dispute over the Himalayan region. Diplomacy and pressure from the United States helped secure the truce on Saturday, following the worst fighting between the nuclear-armed neighbours in nearly 3 decades. But hours after it took effect, explosions were heard and bright flashes lit up the sky in Indian-administered Kashmir, the centre of much of last week's conflict. The blasts died down by dawn, according to Reuters witnesses, and shops on both sides of the contested border region were seen reopening on Sunday. Trump praised the leaders of both countries for agreeing to halt the aggression and said he would substantially increase trade with them. In a post on his Truth Social platform, the president added, quote, "I will work with you both to see if a solution can be arrived at concerning Kashmir. Hindu-majority India and Muslim-majority Pakistan each rule a part of Kashmir but claim it in full. They have twice gone to war over the region." Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif saying in a post on X he was extremely grateful to the US president, while its foreign ministry urged in a statement for the realization of what it called the Kashmiri people's inalienable right to self-determination.
I think what we really are seeing is a situation where India and Pakistan felt that they had each gotten their punches in.
Johns Hopkins University foreign policy researcher Daniel Markey said both sides want the fighting to stop, but described the ceasefire as just pushing pause on a much deeper conflict.
They are concerned about unintended escalation, about this particular conflict getting out of control. But a peace deal, neither side is particularly interested in that. That would mean an actual resolution of the underlying disputes of Kashmir and of broader issues as well.
On the broader geopolitical implications at play, Markey said Washington does not want India in a conflict with Pakistan, as India is a strategic partner in helping the US counterbalance the weight of China across Asia.
Apple is reportedly weighing price hikes for its upcoming fall iPhone lineup, but is keen to avoid linking any increases to US tariffs on imports from China, where most of its devices are assembled. That's according to the Wall Street Journal on Monday. The technology giant's shares were up 7% in pre-market trading. They tracked gains in the wider market after Washington and Beijing agreed to temporarily slash the reciprocal tariffs. But Chinese imports will still be subject to a 30% levy in the US. Apple is among the most prominent firms caught in the US-China trade tensions. The company did not immediately respond to a Reuters request for comment on the journal's report, which cited people familiar with the matter. Raising prices could help Apple cushion higher costs stemming from the tariffs that have hampered global supply chains and forced the company to shift more production to India. Analysts have for months speculated about a price increase from Apple, but warned that such a move could cost it market share. The cheapest iPhone 16 model was launched in the US with a sticker price of $799.